we have Zaki here. Woo!
How's it going? Okay, so I don't know if my slides are going to come up. We'll find out. But anyways, I really don't need them. It's all good.
Just a minute, we can wait for this.
Okay, I'll just talk and it's all good. All right, Zaki, I've been working on Cosmos since 2015, very long time, almost as long as Ethan. And I have a bunch of projects that I work on. So Sommelier is my main project, decentralized DeFi vaults. But I guess what I'm coming to talk to about is staking, liquid staking, what the hell's going on. We just shipped on the Cosmos Hub, on the Atom blockchain, a new module called the liquid staking module that I designed and wrote, and then people, well, no one knows if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Why are you clapping? Let me sell it. So the like sort of net effect of so Cosmos was by far not the first proof of stake blockchain, but when Cosmos launched, it launched with this like native delegation feature that really changed the way staking worked in blockchain. So before Cosmos launched, 2018, pretty much all of the staking was out there was some form of like semi-custodial staking where you had to like give control over your money to stake it to some service. And so all of these services were very small. And like validators and node operators were pretty rare. Most proof of stake networks, like most of the network was actually run by like insiders and the foundations. And when Cosmos launched, it sort of triggered this like sea change in sort of the way staking worked. But in a way that like we really didn't anticipate how mainstream staking would go and like what form that would take. And it really was two things. One, it was a launch of a large number of proof of stake networks over the course of late 2019 and early 2020. But it was also that the exchanges started offering staking products. And it turns out, probably I think like one of the products that blockchains have been most successful at offering their users is this product that is basically yield. It's, you know, it is like number go up as a technology, right? And so we have stablecoin yield, we have staking yield on blockchains, but like, you know, seeing this APR percentage on a centralized exchange or in a wallet has turned out to be really popular with like millions of people. So you have this like massive amount of staking that has happened. And then you have brand recognition that's associated with the like underlying coins. So, you know, Atom, ETH, Sol, all of these things are brands. People understand that you can like earn more of them by staking them. I would suspect that like beyond that, probably not a lot of understanding of like, what does that actually mean? Why are you being staked? All of this stuff. And then we throw into this whole thing liquid staking, and it's like, what the hell is liquid staking? I don't really understand what staking is. I understand yield. Why do I want liquid staking? So what is so in sort of these like networks that launched sort of 2019, 2020, it's very common to see 65 to 70 to more % of all of the coins staked, which honestly was a huge surprise. In 2019, when the Cosmos Hub launched, we had no idea how many coins would be staked. And like it has been that wallets and centralized exchanges have offered these staking products that have like driven the staking rates to be so high. So now, okay, so all of this stuff is great, but it's actually terrible for application builders. If you're an application builder, what are you going to build? What asset are people going to use when they build an application in your ecosystem? Well, they want to use the recognizable application assets that are available on centralized exchanges. So they want to build on top of Sol. So you want to use Sol, you want to use ETH, you want to use Atom to build as like a piece of your application, whether or not people pay fees, bid in auctions, all of this stuff. But now you're like, wait, all of the Sol all of the ETH, like an increasing percentage of the ETH, like all of the atom is all staked. Well, people you don't want to ask people to unstake to use your app. They have to wait 21 days to unstake on Cosmos. That sucks, right? No one will use your app, and slowly your ecosystem will die. So the solution to that problem is liquid staking. Probably like the most significant discussions of liquid staking all sort of originated in the Cosmos ecosystem. But it was Lido launching in 2020 that really like turned liquid staking into a huge thing on ETH. Ethereum launched their proof of stake network without the ability to withdraw your funds, so you could stake, but you couldn't unstake, and you couldn't delegate. There was no delegation system. Lido effectively became a solution to both problems, built on top at the application layer of Ethereum, and a huge amount of like billions and billions of dollars were liquid staked. And now you see like Lido is sort of approaching like 33% of all staked ETH, and it seems to be up only. So Cosmos, on the other hand, no liquid staking really was available in Cosmos until like sort of late 2021. And we've only seen about 1%. So like we're, almost 30%, more than 30% of ETH that's staked is liquid staked. We're seeing less than 1% of atoms historically have been liquid staked. So it doesn't really solve the problem for a builder. The builder still has the same problem, which is I want to build an application. What asset should people use in my application? All I have is this thing that's actually relatively scarce, and I have to compete with, a relatively high, almost 20% staking reward on my app. That makes it really tough to build. So the liquid staking module, which launched recently, like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, enables instant conversion of staked atom to liquid staked atom from a number of providers. I think Stride and Persistence both have native support for this today. So now we do have this thing where like, there's like roughly, there's hundreds of millions of dollars of latent supply of this new asset, that's this yield generating asset, or yield bearing asset called liquid staked atom. ST Atom, P Atom, these all sort of exist as brand names. So now I think the challenge for builders is building applications that actually use these assets. Right now we pretty much have a relatively small number of applications that do anything with liquid staked atoms. We have like lending protocols like UMI and Mars. Pretty much their collateral limits for atoms, like whatever amount of atom that they're allowing people to borrow against, immediately the liquid staking limits, like they get raised, that gets immediately consumed. So there's this huge amount of demand. But what we need stable coins. We need more apps to take ST atoms as fees. We need more and more ways of building interesting use cases and applications on top of this like supply of liquid staked atoms that have been created. But on the whole, it's going pretty well. There was like a pretty significant incident where, so for the first time, someone who wanted to sell their staked atoms used the liquid staking module, converted their atoms to ST atoms, sold them back to atoms, sold those for atoms, and then immediately exited on the exchange. People then came in, saw there were cheap ST atoms that were available in the osmosis pools and on the dexes, bought those cheap atoms, and then immediately went back and arbed it back. So, essentially the system worked as intended, and it shows that there's like sort of increased utility. Now, if that person had been a little bit smarter, they could have composed the application ecosystem on top of Cosmos in more interesting ways. They could have taken their ST atom, they could have broken up their trade using like something like calculated finance, and like done many small trades instead of taking a 10% hit, trying to immediately exit their ST atom position. I think there's in general like a big part of like what we're trying to do with liquid state atom is instead of having all of these interesting economic interactions where people are speculating on the future value of assets in Cosmos happen off-chain, we want to internalize that speculation. We want to be able to have things like perpetuals, people being able to go long or short, people being able to trade in spot markets, people be able to borrow and lend, internalizing the atom economy. And if you look at like what is happening in parallel on Ethereum, virtually every app that is growing, including Sommelier, doing stuff on the Ethereum side, is basically building their growth off of new and interesting use cases and applications on top of ETH liquid staking. And I'm hoping that we're sort of on the precipice of seeing like a similar phenomenon that'll enable a large amount of growth for Cosmos application developers as a result of easy access to liquid staking. So that's kind of a quick explainer of what's going on with the liquid staking module, the evolution of Cosmos liquid staking. Happy to take questions. What? Yeah, questions.
Says.
Hello, Zaki. I have a quick question, which is what so far has been the uptake or what's been the integration of liquid staking or liquid staked atoms into other, other projects like Stride or what have you?
Yeah, so liquid staked atoms, you have UMI and Mars, you have the existing, the osmosis pools, you have Kujira's entire ecosystem does a pretty significant amount of activity on ST Atom. Including their stablecoin takes ST Atom as collateral. It seems like virtually every system is like pretty much hitting its limits like really fast. And it's mostly about sort of the evolving economy, but having more diversity is good. There have been challenges, like it's tough to get like, the only pricing we really have for staked atom today is from this like one osmosis pool that is not even a concentrated liquidity pool. It's like an old, very capital efficient pool. We don't like, Ethereum actually has a lack of sophisticated market makers for liquid staked assets, which is one of the reasons why Sommelier has been able to generate so much yield from liquid staking on the ETH side. But like, if, one would imagine that like in virtually everything about, market structure, right? Ethereum is several years ahead of Cosmos. And so in a world where there's not a lack of market makers for staked ETH, there's even more going to be a lack of market makers and a lack of market maturity around staked atom. But this is like staked atom is the perfect asset for bootstrapping concentrated liquidity on osmosis. And so yes, there's like a bunch of pieces that like need to come together. There needs to be oracles for the redemption rate. There needs to be a lot of pieces that are coming together. But in general, I think all of these pieces, like as they are overcome, enable like, it's basically like staked atom, like liquid staked atoms, ST atom, P atom are like the fastest possible way of accessing user growth among the crypto native Cosmos user base.
We have another question, please.
Yeah, I'd say with liquid stake tokens, the opportunity cost would be that you're unable to take part in the governance of the chain.
Yes.
What do you see as the solution to this?
So one of the big things that went into the design of the liquid staking module was mostly to not try to come up with a solution to this problem and to mostly leave it to the higher level. So the way the liquid staking module works, to get very in the weeds, is it mints something that's almost like an NFT for your stake that you can then hand to another protocol. So basically you have your staked atoms, you make this NFT and you hand it to the Stride protocol or you hand it to the persistence protocol. Now, this allows for those protocols to do a bunch of governance innovation, right? If they want to figure out new and different ways of thinking about, so, and Lido, for instance, is on the Ethereum side, has been talking about lots of different potential models. Like they're like, hey, like maybe we have a 2-token system for governance of the stake that we control, where staked ETH holders can actually have some mechanism of voting and governance, and potentially vetoing something that Lido token holders, like the governance token holders of Lido, decide they want to do. In general, how governance, in general, like staking governance is like in its infancy. Like currently what we have, like obviously doesn't work in the broadest sense. Everything needs to be improved. And ideally, each of the liquid staking tokens then becomes their own little governance microcosms for experimentation. And that should be like, for me, the optimal outcome for liquid staking in Cosmos is that there are multiple successful protocols that have significant amounts of Atom running through their liquid staking protocol, rather than like any one, like it's the worst case outcome is like one protocol is super dominant. So like each one of those becomes their own little like self-contained little universe of governance experimentation, and might be like one significant way in which different liquid staking protocols end up differentiating each other is like, oh, if you do, foo atoms, governance works this way. If you do bar atoms, there's, you don't have any governance rights. And they all go to the governance token holders. Super interesting, and I think good for like the long-term maturity of Cosmos.
Can we see hands if there is any question about liquidity staking? We have the slide back, but yeah.
It's all good.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you, Zaki, and sorry for all that.